number of and type of people that you need. So that's just a couple of external pressures that sits there. It really makes workforce planning in the oil sector more and more important. Why is it important to KPC and to K Group? Well, I think as Bassem mentioned before, in the situation analysis that we did, there were basically three things that were the key drivers that pointed us in the direction towards workforce planning. And that's quite simply, in terms of the people that you have today, not everyone has the skills that they need to deliver what they're here to deliver. There is also a skills gap and shortage in terms of finding, as we mentioned, the people that you really need to succeed in the future and to deliver indeed your 2030 strategy. And you're also losing people to other NOCs or international oil companies. And it's really taking a planned approach to how to avoid and mitigate some of these threats and weaknesses that came out. That sits in the strategy. So, just briefly, because I want Mark to get into the actual topic of workforce planning, and I know that some of you have seen this, but I just want to make sure that all of you in the room have seen it. Bassem mentioned it before, and I'm saying the same thing as I said a couple of weeks ago when we were here talking about the strategy. If you leave with three things, and you remember three things out of what I've said today, I'd like it to be HR service delivery, talent, and high performance. Because those are the three pillars of the HR 2030 strategy, and that's where everything in terms of the priorities and initiatives that comes out of it will flow. The two objectives that are really related to workforce planning are number 4 and 5, and that's how you manage your workforce supply and demand, and your objective to grow Kuwait's next generation of oil and gas talent. So those are the two objectives in the strategy, which the Workforce Planning Initiative... You want to give me that one too? Okay, I'll hold that one. Okay, now we've got two. The initiative that we put in place, which is strategic workforce planning, it's a priority for 2010, and therefore it's the topic, one of the topics that's been chosen for the sessions today. All of the other ones are of course important. Talent, HR sourcing, leadership and employee engagement are other initiatives that you will see throughout the year. But as I said, you'll see there strategic workforce planning and sourcing, a key priority for K Group as a whole for 2010 and 11. In terms of the initiative, there are 5 objectives or actions, if you like, and that's really to build KPC's capacity as a group, not as individual subsidiaries, on how you analyse current and future demographic and workforce trends, and deliver an approach and design a framework that you, as an organisation, can use as a whole and not have individual approaches to how you approach workforce planning. So that is all is a consistent way of approaching it. I think we've dealt with most technical issues now. Just finally then, why is this important, and why can it? Why is it making it a competitive advantage? Well, I think it really creates an ability to deliver employees that can deliver your strategy effectively. By knowing exactly who you need and when, you can avoid becoming a fat organisation, if you like. You're employing people really where they are needed, and you're selectively focusing in and employing people where they're best needed, and at the same time meeting your nationalisation quotas. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Mark to really talk about workforce planning.
It's a real honour and privilege to be here today. So my name is Mark Bowden. I'm a manager at Deloitte and work in the London office. My background is a number of years with ExxonMobil within the London headquarters, and then down on the refinery at Fawley, and I've spent the last 2 years working with Deloitte. What I want to talk to you today about is around workforce planning. And in many ways, what I want to say at the outset is what we want to do today is give you a flavour of the sorts of things that workforce planning involves. I was pleased to hear at the beginning that people are starting to say about people are actually going to deliver the strategy. It's taken quite a number of years to actually get to that point. We were talking with a director only a few days ago who said that their strategy for their organisation had been written without the workforce in mind. And now they were very surprised that a few years into that strategy, they're not actually able to deliver it because they don't have the people there in the places where they're required to actually deliver the strategy. So I'm really pleased to see that at the outset here we're talking about people. So what I'm going to do is just talk about, at the outset, the real principles around workforce planning. And it's actually quite simple. So workforce planning, in its basicness, what we're looking at is just a four-stage process. The first bit being around actually baselining the organisation. Actually, do you know the people you have, the skills, the competencies, the capabilities of the organisation as it currently is? It's amazing how many organisations can say, oh yeah, we have 17,000 employees, but actually if you build that down to the next level and say, okay, and what are they actually made up of? What sort of competencies, what sort of skills, what professions do you have within those 17,000? They can't actually get down to that next level. And with the real analytics around what a workforce begins to look like. Linda's talked around age profiling. Again, that's something that people are particularly good at. But then when you delve into that next level and say, okay, well within that age profiling, what's the trend behind that? Actually, are we seeing people working for longer and therefore the age profiling is slightly different than what we were looking at a few years ago? There's a big debate in the UK at the moment around a retirement age and potentially moving the retirement age from 65 to 70. That will have a significant impact for us in terms of looking at our workforce. So there is that first bit about actually understanding and being able to baseline the workforce as a whole at the outset. Secondly, there's a piece around understanding internal supply. And that is around, yes, it's around joiners and leavers to the organisation and the general attrition, but it's also around moving people within the organisation. If I look back at my time at Exxon, there was a real thirst for actually moving people around the group. We would sit down on a quarterly basis and look at potentially the high flyers within the organisation and actually mapping out their career over the next 5 to 10 years. I can still remember some of those names of the people that were at the top of the kind of rank list and thinking about, their next role. They were going to be going off to Houston to do this particular role, and then they'd be going over to Singapore to get a different skill set there before bringing it back into the European affiliate. To use those skills they'd build up in America and the Far East, and they had to use that within Europe. We actually knew where they were going for those number of years, so we were able to profile our organisation in terms of saying, okay, the internal supply isn't just about the attrition that we expect to see, but it's actually the attrition that we're going to create within our own affiliate. And joiners, actually, again, are you thinking about if you're running campaigns that, we look at joiners and we go back to the trend data, so for the last 3-4 years we've seen 10-15% of the organisation joining.